Fuel you got left?
I love it in the kitchen, baby. You know that.
Richard Dreyfuss and Holly Hunter are lovers separated by dangerous work and then by life itself in Steven Spielberg's Always. That's one of 5 big new holiday movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. Our first movie is Always, a film that Steven Spielberg says he's wanted to make for years and years now, ever since he first saw a 1944 movie called A Guy Named Joe, starring Spencer Tracy. That one was set in World War II and was about bomber pilots. This one is set in the present day, and it's about firefighters who use airplanes to dump chemicals on blazing forests. But the stories are very much the same. In the Spielberg remake, Richard Dreyfuss stars as a daredevil pilot, and Holly Hunter is the air traffic controller he's in love with. She loves him too, so it drives her crazy when he takes big chances.
You think you can buy me off with some crummy present you probably picked up at an airport gift shop?
It's worked before.
Yeah, I don't want it.
What do you think? You think you can make it back?
It ain't happening. Fire's gonna hit the fuel tank any second.
Dreyfuss's best pal is another pilot played by John Goodman. One day his plane catches fire. Dreyfuss goes into a dive to save him by dumping firefighting chemicals on his plane, and it's a dive that Dreyfuss doesn't survive.
Pete, this is Boss. That dive is way too steep, way too steep. Pull up out of there.
After he dies in the crash, Dreyfuss encounters a heavenly guide played by Audrey Hepburn. And he's given his assignment: return to Earth and help train a young pilot as his replacement. The catch is that young pilot, played by Brad Johnson, is falling in love with Dreyfuss's old girlfriend.
You know, I think you've got me all wrong. You invited me here because I'm a safe, well-mannered guy who will play along with your memories of Pete. I don't have any memories of Pete. I have memories of my own, but I don't let them get in the way of my life.
Always makes the kind of grand emotional gesture that Steven Spielberg likes in his films, and it's filled with the sensational special effects that he's famous for, but somehow they don't add up to much. The whole movie feels like a story gimmick without much heart. And the special effects are possibly even overdone this time. There are scenes here where the planes are plowing through blazing treetops like a lawnmower, and it's so unlikely that they don't crash right then and there that the whole movie loses credibility. Another problem, the movie's dialogue seems dated and artificial, especially when Dreyfuss comes back from the dead and starts giving his advice to the living. The bad news is this is one of Spielberg's weakest movies since his comedy, 1941.
It is a weak film, and I think I want to focus on the dialogue trouble that you talked about. What annoyed me about the film, the first 2/3 of the film, is that Richard Dreyfuss, with his whiny nasal voice, and Holly Hunter with her whiny nasal voice, which can be very good in sort of a contemporary story and maybe when they're apart from each other, but when those two are going at it in what is going to be a sentimental kind of film, it doesn't fit at all. And I saw all of them just trading wisecracks for the longest time. Very artificial stuff. When I know, and you can tell that this movie is going to move to an emotional conclusion. The conclusion is kind of sweet. There's a final statement said by Dreyfuss about love withheld is love that you're going to regret withholding all your life. Yeah. So deliver it now.
Another problem in this movie, the original film was about people giving their lives in war for our country in World War II, a war we wanted to win, a war we believed in. Now they're fighting fires. Now it's important to fight forest fires. But it's not, I just don't think it's important enough to sacrifice your life to fight a forest fire. And that's what these people, not only does he do it, but every day they go out there as if they could do it, so that it takes the realistic what are you
I think
going like this for?
Because I think you're going to be misunderstood.
Oh, I wouldn't want that to happen.
Okay, no. I think that the forest fires, however important that is, it's important. Okay, but this is done in such an artificial way. This isn't really forest fire. This is using the fire as a stunt. The setting uses it as a stunt for this kind of emotion. The actual forest fighting, firefighting is forest fighting. Firefighting, that's a worthwhile task.
Yes, but it's not worth sacrificing your life for. It's not like World War II. And that's why the basic motivation is missing.
I think it's the way it's photographed as a stunt rather than a real activity.
Okay, well, I'm glad you kept anyone from misunderstanding me, and now they understood you, we're way ahead.
Okay, next film. We didn't like the last one. Our next one is called Music Box, and it stars Jessica Lange as a Chicago attorney who is confronted with the toughest case of her life when her immigrant father is accused of being a Nazi war criminal in hiding. At first, Lange views the charges against her father as ridiculous, and she says that when she and her father meet the accusing prosecutor played by Frederick Forrest.
This is a mistake. You got the wrong Michael J. Laszlo.
Like hell we do.
I beg your pardon?
We don't have the wrong man.
I didn't do any of that. That's not me. I'm a citizen. I'm a good American.
That's Armin Mueller's style as the father. Once in court, Lange is forced to admit that her father improperly filled out his application in the 40s for admission to the United States, claiming to be a farmer.
My father was a gendarme, but he was not a member of the special section. My father worked as a clerk in an office. He requested that assignment because he could not tolerate the brutalities that he witnessed his fellow gendarmes commit.
The big issue in the trial revolves around an identity card that her father had during the war, and whether or not it has been tampered with by communists back in Hungary. Another issue, whether or not eyewitness testimony of her father as a stormtrooper is accurate.
They put my gendarme picture on it. My writing. To fake the card.
They got witnesses. Witnesses who identify you. They're accusing you of horrible things, Papa.
The trial scenes are the weakest part of Music Box, with the action getting bogged down on the issue of the identity card. Yet Music Box does come alive outside the courtroom, particularly toward the end of the film when the trial moves to Hungary itself. In a truly beautiful, sad, and memorable image, Jessica Lange stares into the river of her father's hometown and she sees blood upon the waters. That imagery, as filmed by director Konstantin Kostagavras, nearly saves the picture, but one great scene doesn't make a whole movie, especially one that has so many indifferent scenes and awkward ones, including the character of Lange's feisty working-class brother who walks through the whole picture ranting and raving and wearing a fatigue jacket. Jessica Lange is just fine. I just wish that the script of the Music Box had challenged her and us a little bit more often than it did.
I also liked that scene, and I also liked the scene where she talks to her father at the end and really confronts him with all of her hurt. But like you, I was disappointed in the film, and one thing that bothered me, this is the second collaboration in a row between Kostagavras and the writer Joe Esterhaus. Their last film was Betrayed, which starred Deborah Winger in that story about a white racist Aryan army in the hills of Montana.
She was the FBI agent.
She was the FBI agent. In both cases, what you have is a big star role, and then you bring in either American neo-Nazis or real German Nazis in order to provide a spurious moral uplift for this story, which is basically just a routine thriller otherwise.
We've dealt with this a lot. There have been a lot of pictures dealing with the Holocaust era, and this one, with that one image, does the kind of poetic turn that I think is required by this subject matter. You've got to be really, we said this just a little while ago, you've got to be really good if you're going to take on a subject like that without being offensive. I wish there had been more. We don't need the court. They should have cut out the courtroom and made it a real journey into a past.
And a journey into this man's past, because the enigma in the film, at the end of the film, is the old man.
Right.
Apparently, he was a Nazi in the war. Apparently, he's now, to the people who know him in Chicago, his hometown, a nice grandfather, a nice neighbor, a nice old man. That's a story that we've read in the newspapers before.
Right.
What happened? How can this same person, same body, find room for those two different people? This movie doesn't have a clue about how to answer that question.
And Kostagavras is a good enough director that he could have done the kind of investigation into identity that a filmmaker like Bertolucci has done in his early films so beautifully, and really questioning what you are made of as well as the person that is close to you, your parent.
When we come back, Tom Cruise stars as an angry Vietnam veteran in Born on the 4th of July. Our next movie is Born on the 4th of July, and this is an amazingly powerful and important film built on a performance by Tom Cruise that is far beyond anything this talented young actor has done earlier in his career. It's a brave performance about a brave man, a Vietnam veteran named Ron Kovic, whose autobiography inspired the film. As the movie opens, Kovic, played by Cruz, is a typical teenager in a typical small American town, and he's proud that he has volunteered to be a Marine.
I'm going to boot camp soon. I joined the Marines for 4 years, so I go to Vietnam. They say I'll probably go right on the front line.
Really? Wow.
I see a lot of action.
He considers it his patriotic duty to fight in Vietnam, and one day, like thousands of other young Americans, he's seriously injured in battle. The news from the doctors is grim for the young man, who's told he's paralyzed from the chest down.
Will I ever be able to have children?
No. No, but we have a very good psychologist here. He's helping.
Oh, I'll walk again.
No,
I know I'll walk again.
Let me tell you something, Ron. You will never walk again.
Back home, Kovic still defends the war, especially against his anti-war younger brother.
Want to bring down this country? Love it or leave it, Tommy. You know, you could just love it or leave it.
It's only after he starts sharing memories with other Vietnam veterans that the futility of the war starts to come into focus for him.
I think, Timmy, I give everything I believe in, everything I got, all my values, just to have my body back again, just to be whole again.
Kovic makes a complete about-face, from a Marine volunteer to an angry anti-war protester who was thrown out of the 1972 Republican National Convention. Born on the 4th of July is based on the life of one Vietnam veteran, and it was directed by another one, Oliver Stone, who told his own story in the Academy Award-winning movie Platoon. This movie is like the second half of that story, telling of an America that was bitterly divided over the war, and of one American soldier who reflects that division and bitterness. In scene after scene in this movie, Tom Cruise grows and reaches further than he's ever done before, especially in a scene where his character protests against the shabby medical treatment he receives in a military hospital, or also when he returns home and starts drinking too much, or also in a heartbreaking search for escape in a Mexican brothel. By the end of this movie, I felt as if I had relived an important part of that most important chapter in the recent American past, and I knew I'd seen one of the best movies of the year.
I think it is clearly that, and it's one of the great performances in recent years. I want to focus on the one thing that you mentioned, which was the hospital sequences, because when I think of the greatness of this picture, it really isn't because of Tom Cruise disappearing into character, which he does and does very well, and so you can't see the good-looking, grinning face anymore. That's a terrific achievement. But what's especially good and courageous is, I think, Oliver Stone showing what the veterans have to go through if they have been seriously wounded and crippled. And so we see scenes that are not going to be box office, that are going to turn people off, but are going to make a memorable film. And that is, I'm talking about what they have to do if you're crippled with your bodily functions. And you see these guys and how they have to clean themselves or remain unclean for long periods of time. You see the damage that a bullet can really do. That's the untold story of all violence in movies. What's the after effect of actually getting hit? And so you see how this guy pays, and pays every day, every hour.
That's the reality. If you get hit like this, you're in that chair for life, and the anger and frustration and hurt that he feels when that happens to him saturates this movie and makes it so powerful.
Yeah. And Kovic isn't always perfect.
No.
He's out of control at times. You refer to the alcoholism. It's very clear there. The escape into drugs. It's all there. And that's what I'll always remember about this picture. I read one place where, under his contract, Oliver Stone could only go 2 hours and 15 minutes in this film. He went 10 minutes more. They could have clipped some of the sequences we're talking about. Not the falling down, but the hospital stuff. I'm glad it's there.
It's a great film. It's a great performance. Coming up next, Sylvester Stallone and Kurt Russell are cops at war with drug dealers and with each other in Tango and Cash.
Who do you think set us up?
I don't know. I got a lot of admirers. How about you?
I got a few.
Our next film is called Tango and Cash, a Lethal Weapon wannabe about two cops that is ultimately an exhausting, unhappy entertainment thanks to a hyper-violent story that has feuding cop partners Sylvester Stallone and Kurt Russell emptying a virtual munitions factory of firepower into a gang of drug-dealing mobsters led by Jack Palance. And the boys, and these truly are boys, meet cute as they are both sent from competing police districts in Los Angeles to the same drug deal. they know of each other's drug-busting reputations.
You know me, huh?
Yeah, I hear you're the second best cop in LA.
That's funny. I hear the same thing about you.
The drug dealers soon arrange through crooked cops to frame both Tango and Cash, and that forces the boys to bicker even more.
My lawyer wants me to cop a plea.
Yeah, mine too. 18 months, Lompoc Federal Country Club. I think you'll love it. I understand they open the gym at 5 a.m. You can start pumping early.
Predictably, the movie ends with its biggest display of firepower as the boys are outfitted with a souped-up RV in which they attack the gangsters' headquarters.
Subtle, real subtle. We're in.
You've seen that before, and the noise and the explosions and the constant gunplay are truly tiresome. Having seen both Lethal Weapon films recently, these jokes seem lame, and the rivalry of the boys seems fraudulent. Both Stallone and Russell are essentially playing the same want-to-be-liked character, only their clothes are different. For all of the action, Tango and Cash is a boring film, and that's important because in Lethal Weapon pictures, they were two different characters.
You see, it's not that I don't like movies about two cops and lots of special effects. It's just that I don't like bad movies about two cops and lots of special effects. And Tango and Cash is a waste of valuable electricity. I mean, I think they should have just not made this movie. There is nothing there that is worth anybody's time to see. It's a no-brainer movie. It doesn't even make the slightest difference when you walk in. You can start this movie at any time. If you happen to have it at home on videotape, you know, you can just start it at random and then rewind it and come in from the beginning. It's a loop. It's a loop of very few wisecracks, lots of explosions, lots of guns, Jack Palance playing with his mice, which is supposed to make him into some kind of a character, plus his obsolete TV screens that were out about 10 years ago that he's so proud of.
There's no, I mean, I reviewed it, you just dismissed it. Let's get on to the next.
Let's move on, right. Coming up next, Isabella Johnny stars as Camille Claudel, the story of a great artist with a tragic life. Our next movie is named Camille Claudel, and it stars Isabella Johnny in the story of a woman who was a great sculptor, a passionate individualist, the lover of the most famous artist of her day, and then, when her world began to crumble, was committed to a mental hospital where she was to spend the rest of her life. The woman's name was Camille Claudel, and as the movie opens, she is a young student who visits the workshop of Auguste Rodin, the most famous sculptor of the 19th century. He's played by Gerard Depardieu.
Occupez-vous de cette jeune fille, elle veut du marbre. Combien? Des chutes nègres. Je vous laisse. J'ai droit à une inspection du ministère des Beaux-Arts. Salvetti, si oui, pour l'accompagner.
He gives her that piece of marble and also asks for the opportunity to make a sculpture of her. He sculpts her, but she also sculpts him, and he is astonished when he sees the result.
C'est saisissant, hein? C'est de l'alchimie. C'est de la féerie.
Jamais vu un autoportrait comme celui-là.
On s'attend presque à le trouver.
Camille Claudel begins to win fame for her work, but Rodin is jealous of her talent and wants her to remain only his devoted student and mistress.
J'aurais préféré être dans un asile, là où tu aimerais bien me mettre d'ailleurs. J'aimerais bien me mettre dans un asile.
T'es complètement ivre morte, complètement saoule.
A lot of movies about art don't seem to know very much about art. This one does. It shows us not only the inspiration, but also the plain hard work that goes into being a sculptor, beginning with an early scene of the young woman out in a driving rain, digging up the clay with which she begins her career with her bare hands. Isabella Johnny has been in a lot of distinguished movies in her career, but this is clearly her best performance, a performance of great concentration and emotional energy that shows her flowering under the encouragement of Rodin and then beginning to come apart under the pressure of his own form of insanity. As for Gerard Depardieu, he was recently voted, I saw, the best foreign actor of the decade in one of those critics polls, and he's been in so many good movies and been so good in them that there's a danger of taking him for granted. The two of them create an explosive emotional warfare here.
I think that they're very good, but I want to challenge you on one point, which is that for me, the test of a film about an artist, and they usually aren't very good, is that we don't see enough time of them doing the actual work. And it can be very difficult to photograph this. Sculpting, I think, is one thing that can be done well, or painting. Writing is probably the toughest. The typewriter just isn't very photogenic. But I wish there are some scenes where you see some of the chipping away, some of the sculpting. I wish there could have been more of that. I mean, a lot more of that, so that we really see what the work is all about.
I remember the Scorsese picture, the segment of New York Stories, where he shows Nick Nolte painting. And he made him into a painter. He showed a painting being made as part of making that movie, which was only a short movie, so there would have been time here to show her being more of a sculptor, and that would have been good. I agree with you.
And Rodin as well. I mean, let's show what they do, because otherwise, for me, the picture becomes sort of the standard woman is victim. It's an important story of our time, but it is predictable. That's predictable for
Didn't you think they were good performances?
Are
you voting thumbs up or not?
It's going to be down, because it's a close call, but I feel ultimately the fidelity must be to the art rather than to the artist, and that's why it's a close call, but I'm going down. Now let's recap our reactions to the movies we reviewed on this show. 2 thumbs down for Steven Spielberg's Always, a love story that has far too many wisecracks interrupting its sentiment. 2 more thumbs down for Music Box, with Jessica Lange's search into her father's Nazi past undone by a boring courtroom drama. 2 enthusiastic thumbs up, however, for Oliver Stone's Born on the 4th of July, featuring a towering performance by Tom Cruise in the story of the Vietnam War taking place inside one man. 2 thumbs down for the forgettable, violent cop buddy picture Tango and Cash. And finally, a split vote on Camille Claudel. Roger liked the art world performances. We both thought the film could have used more scenes of the artists at work. So it's Born on the 4th of July that we're really recommending as one of the year's best.
Born on the 4th of July, and we're going to find out if it's one of the year's best for sure next week, because we'll be back with our annual special program called the 10 Best Films of 1989. Gene and I will both unveil our 10 best list, and until then, the balcony is closed.
Martin Lawrence Gallery's beautiful limited edition Serograph Giant by Linea Pergola. It's numbered and hand-signed and available at Martin Lawrence Galleries throughout the United States. KitchenAid double-door refrigerator, trash compactor, portable convertible dishwasher, and solid-state touch options washer-dryer, all in almond. KitchenAid, for the way it's made. Johnny Cat is America's #1 premium cat litter, and now with our new drawstring litter box liners, Johnny Cat and a little privacy is all any cat needs. Snow Caps, Raisinets, and Goobers. 3 big box office hits starring Nestle Milk Chocolate. Moviegoers give them a definite 2 thumbs up.